Well, guys, you want Rangers players past, you want Rangers players present, you want Rangers players future. Well, perhaps I haven't got that, but we've got past and present. We've got a little bit of everything. We've got a bit of Todd Cantwell. We've got a bit of Barry Ferguson for you. We've got a bit of Kenny Miller for you. We've got managerial speculation by Borna. We've got lots of information for you in this video, whether it's this morning, this afternoon, or this evening, whenever you're picking up the video. Welcome indeed to Glasgow Rangers Nation. Please hit the sub and ring the notification bell. Welcome, guys. Welcome on board. Well, look, it's an interesting one, isn't it? There's been an awful lot of negativity surrounding the club over the last 48 to 72 hours, hasn't there? After what was a dreadful week last week. We're now obviously during the international break. We need to regroup. We need to move forward. Whether the desire of the fans, which it does seem to be the majority of fans, want rid of Michael Beale, it isn't going to happen, as was talked about on this channel yesterday with John Bennett saying that it seems that he is not willing to satisfy the bloodlust that there is amongst a large group of the supporters and hand Michael Beale's head on a plate to the fan base. So let's move along. Let's talk about a few different things today. Now, Todd Cantwell, Mr. Todd Cantwell, who has had, I think, by common consent, a very mixed season. The odd game where he's played well, and then there's games like Sunday where he was absolutely shocking. Wasn't great against PSV either, and hasn't had the best of games in some of the big games we have played this year. Maybe it's because he's being moved around a lot. Maybe it's because he hasn't really settled in a position. We're perhaps not using him in the best place possible. When he's looked more effective, it has been when he's had that freer role, more of that 10 role. When he's kind of been used on the right of midfield or the left of midfield, he's been less effective. And I think I rated him as either 2 out of 10 or 3 out of 10 on Sunday. I thought he was absolutely awful on Sunday, if I'm being honest. Yes, he ran around a lot, but you know what? So the headless chickens. This is what Todd Cantwell, though, has had to say on social media. Yes, TikTok Todd, as he has been called by some, has had this to say on social media today. He said, "We need actions, not words. However, silence can seem cowardly in these times." He went on to say, "We need unity and togetherness to turn this season successful. It's not the start wanted. However, everything is still in our hands. You fans are incredible and deserve to see better. Over to us." And this is what he said on Instagram, and it has met with, I think, very much a mixed response. Some Rangers fans have liked what he's written and talked about the fact that he's one of us and talked about the fact that he gets it. And the fact that he knows that what we've seen so far has not been acceptable and he wants to turn it round. Other Rangers fans have remarked that he needs to get the hell off social media and actually do it on the pitch for a change. Look, there's two sides to every argument. Number one, we are living in a modern social media age, and I think to expect players not to post on social media and not to use social media to get messages across is kind of, I don't know, it's going to happen, isn't it? It's going to be a case where social media is used. Some players seem to like social media. Some players seem to use social media to put across a message, and Todd certainly seems to be one of them. In terms of getting their message out, I think, yes, through press conferences is one way, but social media is an instant way to get something out to the fan base. So it's always going to be used by players. However, you can see the other side of the argument. I think you look at some of the interviews James Tavernier's given over the last few weeks and months, and it's the same old tired diatribe that he's out with week after week, time after time. We must do better. Yes, I'm happy with my form. We need to do better in this game. There will be a response, and we don't get it, and that's why people get angry. There's a lot of people who think that players need to shut the hell up and just get on with it on the field and actually produce it on the field rather than posting over social media. Look, one of those people who has condemned Todd Cantwell and pretty much slaughtered him for that post is former Rangers captain Barry Ferguson. And we know Barry likes to soundbite. We know Barry likes to talk about the team. This is what he had to say, in terms of that social media post. He told Todd Cantwell that Rangers fans are daft and that he should keep his apologies off social media and actually put them into practice on the field. Barry is very much old school, isn't he? He's very much of an era where social media wasn't prevalent, that Rangers players did it on the pitch. They didn't talk as much off the pitch as they do now, but that he is, I think, from a different generation of players. Barry told Go Radio, "See things like this, Cantwell's post, forget about it. Go and do your talking on the pitch. I'm sure if you ask any Rangers fans, I get that social media has its place for players. It's good for a lot of things, but do your talking on the pitch. That comes in the next game against St Johnstone. Fans aren't daft. They want to see performances on the pitch, and that's what they expect and demand. I get it. Is now the way social media, but keep yourself quiet and turn up at McDiarmid Park and scud them 3 or 4-0 and get 3 points. Look, I kind of partially agree with what Barry Ferguson's got to say now. Barry, I know, will get some criticism for this, and some people don't like Barry Ferguson. They don't like what he's got to say about the team, and I understand that. I understand that 100%. But look, I kind of get where he's coming from with this, because you can talk a great game and you can talk all you want about, apologies, and we need to go again, and we need to be more unified, and we need to come up with a solution. But you know what? There's only so much you can say it before you've actually got to do it. It's like saying sorry and actually meaning to say sorry, isn't it? We all get accused of saying sorry for things, and there being actually no meaning behind that apology. And I think what we want to see from the fans is that we want to see, well, as fans, what we want to see from the players is not just the same old tired diatribe of we're sorry, things need to get better, we understand that, etc., etc. We'll actually go out and do it on the pitch, turn in a performance, turn out a quality performance that gets us excited, that lets us see the talent and the potential that we have in the squad, and not Glazers coming away from a game going, my God, that was awful, which I think is pretty much the feeling from a lot of fans who've seen this team at the start of the season. I personally think very little positive has come from the start of the season. Jack Butland perhaps being the one positive. Certainly if you go back to Michael Beale's targets at the start of the season, by this stage, by the international break, he wanted to be in the Champions League. He wanted to be top of the Scottish Premier League, and he wanted to be in the quarterfinals of the League Cup. Well, 1 out of 3, and the one being probably the worst of the 3, is just not acceptable for a Rangers manager. Now, one person who has also been having his say on the whole issue of Michael Beale and of Rangers is former Rangers player Kenny Miller. Obviously, Kenny Miller was someone who played for both sides of the city, which obviously caused a great deal of controversy at the time. But Kenny Miller believes that manager Michael Beale can recover from the defeat against Celtic after the appalling Champions League exit. Kenny Miller, talking to the BBC, said that I understand the frustrations of the fans, but stability and continuity for me gives you a better chance of actually achieving success. Where Rangers are at the moment is not what any Rangers fan wants to see. Only time will tell if Michael will be the right man to move things forward, but he definitely deserves the chance to have the best possible chance to let it develop and get better. Beale has won, as he says, Beale has only, as we've seen previously, only won 1 of his 6 meetings against Celtic, which is not acceptable at all. Now, Kenny Miller went on to talk about the players and the players taking responsibility. He said, absolutely, I think he can recover after a shaky start to the season, which includes the opening weekend loss at Kilmarnock. It's 4 games in the season. In terms of the league, there's still a long way to go. There does need to be significant improvements, but there's not one person, player, coach or manager within Rangers not thinking the exact same thing. The fans need to understand that. It's not just the manager. He has to shoulder responsibility of the signings. I get it, but it's also to the individuals to take responsibility on the field and perform. 9 new players have come into the club. They need to understand who they're representing and what it takes to actually deliver success. Playing for Rangers, this just comes with the territory. You fall short in the big games, then you're going to get criticism. Sometimes it's scathing, and it was in the aftermath of Sunday. It's really important in the next phase of games that they go unscathed. Now, Kenny, I think, has a point in what he says that, look, throwing the baby out of the bathwater sometimes is not the best way forward. But the one thing I would dispute with Kenny Miller and argue with him on is the fact that when you see a team out there, and you can talk about the players and the signings, and you can talk about the signings needing to understand who they are and what club they're with and how they're expected to perform. But, you can have 11 of the best players in the world, but if the coach is not up to the job, or if the coach is not organising the team, if he's not giving them a vision, a shape, a style, then it matters not. You could have, you could have Erling Haaland in that team. I still don't think this team would be good enough to compete and compete in the Champions League or even win the league at this stage. The problem I think we've got is the fact that the players that we have, the players that we've signed, yes, there may be some talent in those outside of Jack Butland, and certainly some of them have showed little promise and flashes at times. But what it is for me is the underlying principle of this team, the underlying foundations of this team are not solid. There is not a decent defense in place. I think the defense is aging. I think the defense is in trouble. I think both the fullbacks are struggling. I think the central defenders need quality to be added to them during the summer, something we failed to do. I also think the tactics and formation and style of the team is just not good enough for the club. And I think, Michael Beale has got to shoulder a lot of responsibility for that. After all, it's him that signs the players, him that picks the players, him that coaches the players, and him that sends them out there on a match day. Therefore, the buck stops with him. So Kenny's partially right in what he says. We do have to have stability, I guess. But at the same time, Michael Beale has been absolutely shocking this season so far. Do we need knee-jerk reaction and firing? Well, there's a lot of people that think that we should. There's a lot of people that think that we shouldn't, and it's a difficult one. It certainly is a very difficult one indeed. Now, if Michael Beale was to be sacked, there's a number of names, obviously, that have been linked in recent times. Kevin Muscat was recently talked of, but I think that was a bit of very lazy journalism in terms of the fact that, look, he's a Postecoglou clone, or, well, he's kind of like a lesser version of Ange Postecoglou. His record certainly is not as good as Ange Postecoglou's was when he was in Australia and Japan. You've then got obviously mentions of Graham Potter, the former Chelsea and Brighton manager, but it seems at the moment he is damaged goods because of what happened at Chelsea. There's Knutson, our Bodo Glimt, but there's obviously doubts on whether he could apply that style and apply himself out of Norwegian football. Another name that has been presented as a possible candidate by a number of papers down in England is Birmingham City manager John Eustace. It was reported by the Daily Mail today that he is certainly a name that Rangers may well be considering if Michael Beale is sacked. Apparently, he is emerging as a possible candidate. He's not the only one. There are a lot of other names that have been pushed forward in terms of a replacement for Beale if it's decided by the Rangers board they don't want to persist with Michael Beale. In terms of his managerial career, he's not the most experienced again. He's very much new into the job. He started off at Kidderminster Harriers between 2016 and 2018. He was then an assistant at QPR between 2018 and 2022. Yes, working for guess who? He was a caretaker at QPR in 2019. He was the assistant coach of the Republic of Ireland in 2022. And he has since then has been the Birmingham City manager. In terms of his career statistics as a manager, well, his win ratio at Kidderminster Harriers was 53.4%. He was a caretaker at QPR for 7 games where he won 2, drew 1, lost 4, with a 28% win percentage. And at Birmingham, his win percentage is just 33%. So I would pour a lot of cold water on these rumours. I don't think he's the sort of manager Rangers need. I don't think he's the sort of manager who can deliver success for Rangers. So for me, John Eustace is certainly someone I think we should definitely rule out. I don't think he would be a major upgrade on Michael Beale. Having seen some of Birmingham City's play over the last season and a bit, he doesn't play particularly great football. Birmingham City are not a particularly great team. So for me, it's a big no on the John Eustace one. I just do not think he brings anything to the party. Now, guys, broke a story last night and talked about this story. Go back and check the video out. Bye-bye, Borna. Rumours that Dinamo Zagreb of Croatia are moving to sign Borna Barisic. Personally, I'd say take the money, even if it's now. I think, give Ridvan his chance, give Divine a chance, give Dujan Sterling a chance. We seem to have more than enough cover in that left back slot. So if we could get 2-3 million for him, then fair enough, let him go now. It is been reported by the Croatian media that it does seem more likely that January would be a moving time for him, as obviously Rangers cannot replace him now the transfer window has closed in Scotland. The transfer window remains open until Friday in Croatia, where Zagreb play, and it's felt that Borna is very interested in a return to his home country. One final story this afternoon, or this evening. Congratulations to Robbie McCrory, who, even though his game time has been limited, has been called up to the Scotland squad after Elliot Anderson withdrew and Liam Kelly also dropped out as well. So because they have both dropped out, Robbie McCrory has been called up to the Scottish national team by manager Steve Clarke. So congratulations to Robbie McCrory on his call up to the full national team. Well, guys, let me know what you think of the stories we've covered this morning in this video. A bit shorter than normal, but like I said, it is obviously international break. There is slightly fewer stories, and with the risk of going, and I don't just want to go on about the same thing time and time again, and Michael Beale and Celtic and PSV and sack Michael Beale, etc. It gets a bit dull after a while. Well, guys, if you enjoyed the content, please come and join the over 3,000 others by hitting that sub and ringing that notification bell. And as always, I need you to do two things. Number one, smash that like. And number two, remember always, we are